Once upon a time, at a breeding ranch in Hokkaido, a young foal was born on April 26, 1995. The newborn was unremarkable to say the least. His body was frail, thin, and unbalanced. The color of his coat was dull, and his heritage was so plain that nobody expected anything of him. In the eyes of a horse owner, these qualities made him so unattractive that most people would completely overlook his existence. And to be honest, why wouldn't they? Not only was he lacking in good racing traits, but the reputation of his birthplace was also questionable. This foal was the product of a declining mass production breeding ranch belonging to the Nishiyama family. In the past, Nishiyama Ranch was flourishing as the largest single mass production breeding facility, with 250 mares birthing about 200 foals every year. But as time passed and the demand for elite thoroughbreds rose, the quality of the ranch's horses steadily declined. Nishiyama Ranch became plagued with bloated management costs, poor performance of the offspring, and the inability to bring in strong stallions. It goes without saying that the ranch's reputation for thoroughbred production plummeted. To make matters worse, the founder of Nishiyama Ranch, Masayuki Nishiyama, was suffering from Parkinson's disease, and it was discovered that the ranch omitted 2.2 billion yen of income on their taxes in 1994. The son, Shigeyuki Nishiyama, was forced to take over, and he completely overhauled the ranch's production strategy in 1996. Faced with massive debt, he sold off a majority of the breeding mares, stallions, and foals for pennies. On average, a thoroughbred foal sold for roughly 37 million yen back in 96. Nishiyama Ranch sold each foal for a measly 400 to 600,000 yen. All of them sold within a single day, except for three. One of the unsold foals was Seiun Sky, the ugly duckling of our story. After downsizing the ranch, 200 mares and almost all stallions had been sold off, including one of their top producing stallions, Sheriff Star. Sheriff Star was a moderately successful racehorse from Great Britain, with 4 wins in graded races and 2 of them being G1. Seiun Sky was one of the last few foals produced by Sheriff Star before he retired from breeding and was sold off. Luckily, Sister Mill, Seiun Sky's mother, was still being kept at Nishiyama Ranch, so she was able to give the growing foal love and attention. Interestingly, Sister Mill has no racing record on account of illness and leg pain during her younger years, so it's quite endearing that the ranch was not willing to separate her from her son. When Seiun Sky was 2 years old, Kazutaka Yasuda arrived at Nishiyama Ranch looking to adopt a colt for his father's stable. Kazutaka had just gotten his training license the year before. His options were extremely limited, but he found a foal descended from Hyperion, the most successful British sire of the 1940s and 50s, and on the mother's side was the famous Canadian racehorse Northern Dancer. Kazutaka thought there could be some potential there, but he didn't expect too much to come out of it as those horses were from 5 generations ago, and the bloodline has been greatly diluted with unremarkable horses. On a whim, he decided to adopt this colt simply because he wanted a male with black hair to balance out the horses at Yasuda's stable. On October 1st, 1997, Seiun Sky was brought to Yasuda stable to begin training. Even at 2 years old, Seiun Sky's body was slow to mature compared to a typical horse. His figure was flat and lean, so it didn't seem like he had strong muscles worthy of a champion horse. The trainers noted that he didn't have any qualities that would stand out as good or bad. At best, they saw him as an average horse. Nevertheless, Kazutaka Yasuda continued to train Seiun Sky because at the very least he would gain experience as a trainer. However, things started to change as Seiun Sky got older. When he was nearing 3 years old, Seiun Sky's body started gaining more muscle mass and filling out a wider frame. His sudden change surprised everybody at Yasuda's stable. The staff started clamoring about how, this is it, he's starting to show his true form. Kazutaka was especially surprised and excited for the horse's future as a racer. Just like humans, not all horses grow at the same rate. Seiun Sky was just a late bloomer. Kazutaka stated he didn't want to rush the process, so he decided to wait and let Seiun Sky's body continue developing. Most horses have their debut race between the ages of 2 and 3. Seiun Sky did not have his debut until he was approaching 4 years old. The day of his racing debut finally came on January 5, 1998, at the 1600-meter Nakayama track with Takeshi Tokuyoshi on the saddle. Being that it was his first race ever, Seiun Sky was slow leaving the gate, but he managed to catch back up and even took the lead position before the halfway mark. Then, after leaving the final corner, Seiun Sky broke away from the pack and left everybody behind. He continued running faster and putting more distance between himself and the other competitors. He was a full second and about 5 to 6 lengths in front of the next horse when he crossed the finish line. His next race would be at the 2,000-meter Junior Cup, where he absolutely overwhelmed the competition by finishing 5 lengths ahead of second place. However, just before the race began, something hit Seiun Sky's rear when he stopped in front of the gate. Like many new racehorses, he was unacclimated to the starting gate and had a tendency to stop right before entering it. Kazutaka's assistant trainer, Aoyagi, affirms that ever since then, Seiun Sky hated the gate and would cautiously approach it in fear of getting hit. After the race, Kazutaka admitted, "This horse is the real deal. I think we have a good chance at the classics." On another note, one night in August of 2020, Shigeyuki Nishiyama confessed in a drunken tweet that Seiun Sky's father was euthanized and no longer of this world around the same time that they won the Junior Cup. Prior to the race, everyone thought that Sheriff Star was an unsuccessful sire, since none of his offspring accomplished anything. Sadly, he wasn't able to live long enough to see his son's amazing achievements, and only after his death did people praise Sheriff Star for producing a foal that would eventually grow into becoming a beautiful racehorse. About a month and a half after the Junior Cup, Seiun Sky would race against his generational rivals for the first time at the G2 Yayoi Show on March 8, 1998. At the start of the race, Seiun Sky immediately took to the front and quickly claimed the lead position while Special Week and King Halo remained in the center of the pack. Once everyone entered the final straight, Seiun Sky quickly pulled ahead and gained a significant lead on the other horses. He was about 2 lengths ahead of everyone else when all of a sudden, Special Week's velocity drastically increased. With less than 100 meters to the finish, Special Week flew like a shooting star and passed Seiun Sky right before he arrived at the finish line. The Yayoi Show is one of 2 trial races, and its top 3 finishers are granted entry to compete in the Satsuki Show. This means that Special Week, Seiun Sky, and King Halo will be going head-to-head once again in the first race for the Classic Triple Crown series. After the loss at the Yayoi Show, Takeshi Tokuyoshi was replaced by Norihiro Yokoyama. Yokoyama-san would be on the saddle for the remainder of Seiun Sky's career. His ability as a new jockey will be tested at the Satsuki Show on April 19, 1998. Seiun Sky was slow leaving the gate during the first round of the Classic Triple Crown. He was stuck around 4th place during the early race, but was able to recover and took the second position by the halfway point. During the final corner, both Seiun Sky and King Halo lined up with one another and passed the lead horse, with Special Week chasing after them. All 3 would break away from the group in the final stretch, and the race became a 3-way battle between rivals. Seiun Sky would come out as the champion for the Satsuki Show, followed by King Halo and Special Week at half-length intervals between each other. His victory at the Satsuki Show was a huge deal for everyone on the team. It was the first victory in the classics for jockey Yokoyama, the first G1 win for the newbie trainer Kazutaka, and the first time a stallion claimed victory in a Classic Triple Crown race for Nishiyama family. Shigeyuki exclaimed that he was so delighted and grateful to Seiun Sky for this victory while his father was still alive. He was worried that this might be the last classic race his father would be able to attend, since his health was rapidly declining. A month and a half later, the contest for the second crown at the Tokyo Yushun began with both of Seiun Sky's rivals in attendance. When the race began, an out-of-character King Halo quickly claimed the front position, with Seiun Sky chasing after him. Seiun Sky eventually surpassed King Halo just before the final corner, but as everyone made a mad dash for the finish line, Special Week emerged from the middle of the group and started overtaking every horse in his path. Not only did Seiun Sky lose to Special Week once again, but 2 additional horses managed to overtake him as well. Unfortunately, Seiun Sky finished in 4th place at the Tokyo Yushun. Afterwards, Seiun Sky returned to Nishiyama Ranch and spent all of summer resting and preparing for the last race of the Triple Crown. The Kika Show requires participants to earn their spot by performing well in one of several trial races. Most racers would use the Kyoto Shinbun Cup as their trial race, but since that race was only 2 weeks before the Kika Show, Shigeyuki decided to not even bother earning the right to run in the Kika Show and would just pay money to enter it instead. Since he won a ton of money from the Satsuki Show, Shigeyuki would rather spend the extra cash to have a more relaxed racing schedule. Rather than sit around and wait, the team enters Seiun Sky into the Kyoto Daishoten, which is limited to horses 4 years old and older. Seiun Sky had just turned 4 earlier that year. Unlike the Kyoto Shinbun Cup with 16 competitors, the Daishoten only had 7 participants, and Seiun Sky was the youngest of them all. Some notable horses he would be racing against were Meijiro Bright and Stay Gold, who were both 5 years old at the time. Seiun Sky bolted right out of the gate as soon as it opened. His starting pace was so fast you'd think he was running in the last leg of a race. Before even arriving at the first corner, Seiun Sky had already put over 2 lengths of distance between the other horses. By the time he exited the corner, Seiun Sky was so far out in front that no other horse was anywhere near him. At one point, he was 10 lengths ahead of second place during this race. However, he started slowing down as he was approaching the final corner. The older, more experienced riders noticed his change of pace and quickly increased theirs to catch up. They were all tightly grouped up as they turned the last corner. Everyone must have thought that Seiun Sky burnt himself out running so fast so early. Little did they know, Yokoyama-san intentionally had Seiun Sky slow down to conserve his energy and fool the other racers. As everyone entered the final straight, Seiun Sky burst forward and accelerated once more. He quickly escaped the pack, but Meijiro Bright was still brimming with energy. He ferociously chased after Seiun Sky. Although Meijiro Bright was gaining ground, there was simply not enough distance remaining for him to steal the win. Seiun Sky crossed the finish line 1 head's length in front of Meijiro Bright. A month after the Kyoto Daishoten, Seiun Sky entered the gate for the longest race in the Classic Triple Crown series on November 8th. He quickly made his way to the front and gradually increased his pace until he was several lengths ahead of the group. One opponent chased after Seiun Sky, but the pace was too quick and he eventually returned to the other competitors. Similar to the previous race, Seiun Sky had an incredible lead during the middle leg. Yokoyama-san employed the same tactic of running away early and slowed down towards the last half of the race. But this time, he was careful to not reduce his pace so much that the competition would take notice. Just as he planned, no one realized that they had slowed down and none were trying to catch up to him. With their scheme underway, the bait was set and Seiun Sky waited patiently like an angler anticipating his next bite. Upon entering the final corner, Seiun Sky was about 4 lengths ahead of the rest. The other racers probably thought that Seiun Sky would burn out at the end because none of them bothered to close the distance. Even after exiting the final turn, he was still 2 to 3 lengths ahead of the group. The time to reel in the big fish was now. Seiun Sky accelerated towards the finish and increased his lead even further. All the dumbfounded jockeys could not believe their eyes. They had completely misjudged the lead horse. Everyone commanded their respective horses to dash after Seiun Sky, but it didn't matter how fast they ran. He was too far ahead. In the battle between Seiun Sky and Special Week for the Double Crown, Seiun Sky finished 3.5 lengths in front of Special Week. Not only did he manage to deceive every opponent in the Kikasho, but Seiun Sky would also set a new course record at 3 minutes and 3.2 seconds. Our little ugly duckling has finally grown up to become a beautiful Double Crown swan. At the end of every year, fans gather and vote on their favorite horses to race in the yearly Arima Kinen. Naturally, the number 1 favorite for this year is none other than Seiun Sky. However, this year's Arima Kinen participants were ridiculously stacked. Every single one of Seiun Sky's opponents has achieved multiple graded wins, and most had more mature bodies with extensive racing experience. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the Arima Kinen of 1998 has some of the strongest horses of the last 3 years. Just as he ran in the previous 2 races, Seiun Sky quickly took the lead position and continued to swiftly run until he was ahead by almost 5 lengths during the middle section of the race. But his opponents were too strong and would not be so easily tricked. Meijiro Dober, Air Groove, Grass Wonder, Stay Gold, Machikane Fukukitaru, King Halo, Meijiro Bright, and every other horse in the race chased after Seiun Sky and quickly caught up before the final corner. Then, as every horse sprinted towards the finish at the home stretch, Grass Wonder, Meijiro Bright, and even Stay Gold managed to pass Seiun Sky moments before he crossed the finish. Kazutaka would later go on to say that they avoided running on the inside track because the Nakayama course was in bad shape that day. In hindsight, Kazutaka wonders if Seiun Sky would have performed better than 4th place if they had just let him run as he usually does instead of forcing him to the outside. Before the end of the year, it was decided that Seiun Sky, who was considered as personal property of Masayuki Nishiyama, would be sold to Nishiyama Ranch for tax purposes. Once the legal paperwork was done, the jockey's uniform would change from yellow with green stripes to yellow with purple stripes. On a side note, horses with the title of Seiyun and Nishino are technically both owned by Masayuki Nishiyama and would later be inherited by Shigeyuki Nishiyama after his father's passing in 2004. On paper, horses with the title of Nishino are held by the Nishiyama Ranch, while horses with the title of Seiyun are considered as personal property of the Nishiyamas. Seiun Sky and the team would take a break during the new year for almost 4 months. Their next race after the Arima Kinen would be at the Nikkei show on March 28, 1999. Joining them in this race would be Seiyun Area, Seiun Sky's half-brother. Strangely, Seiun Sky did not immediately take to the front. Instead, he casually chased after the lead while holding the second position until just before the last corner. Seiun Sky lined up with the lead horse while making the turn and came out in front. Afterwards, he proceeded to rush to the goal and finished 5 lengths ahead of his brother. The two brothers came out as the top 2 finishing horses that day. Seiun Sky's next race would be at the Spring Tenno Show, where he'd face off against familiar faces once more. Unlike most of his previous races, Seiun Sky was not able to get a significant lead at any point in time during this race. All of his opponents stayed close, and at the final leg of the race, Seiun Sky was passed by Special Week and Meijuro Bright, causing him to finish in 3rd place. After the race, the team would break for another 3 months and enter Seiun Sky in the G2 Sapporo Kinen on August 22nd. This race would be a battle between 2 Double Crown horses, with Seiun Sky pitted against Phalaenopsis, the Phillies Double Tiara winner. Coming off of a long break, Yokoyama decided to let Seiun Sky run however he pleased for this race, which resulted in him staying towards the back half of the pack. After passing the halfway mark, Seiun Sky began accelerating to the front and lined up with the lead horse by the time they left the last corner. Then, he just took off running. Phalaenopsis was coming from the far outside and desperately chased after him, but it wasn't enough. The Double Crown Stallion proved his strength and claimed victory over the Double Tiara mare. 2 months later, he was entered into the Fall Tenno Show, where he would compete against his rivals one last time on October 31st. There was an ominous feeling in the air that day when the team brought Seiun Sky out to the track. There's a saying that you know your body best, and Seiun Sky definitely knew something was not right. He was irritable and tense. When brought to his gate, he refused to go in and even started kicking behind him. It startled everyone, and they immediately started backing up. Receiving a direct kick to the chest from a horse can instantly stop the human heart. The staff members present had to blindfold Seiun Sky and walk him backwards to an isolated area until all other competitors got clear. Everyone waited for him to enter the gate first before going in theirs. The entire process delayed the race by 7 minutes. When the race started, Yokoyama would have Seiun Sky stay in the middle of the group, just like in the previous race. He remained there until passing the final corner. When he began to accelerate, Special Week was lined up next to him and also accelerating. There were 8 other horses in front of them, and although Seiun Sky managed to pass 3 of them, it wasn't enough, and he finished in 5th place, while Special Week claimed 1st. Afterwards, a dispute broke out between a committee member and the jockey for the gate incident earlier. Yokoyama claims that he didn't understand why the starting staff member was having him enter the gate sideways instead of directly behind, while the staff person argued that he gave no such instructions. In the end, Seiun Sky would be suspended for 1 month from racing, but as it turns out, that was the least of their problems. After the Fall Tenno Show, it was discovered that Seiun Sky had developed flexor tendonitis, so he returned back home to Hokkaido and took a long break to recover. Horses with flexor tendonitis essentially have no hope of a full recovery, but the team didn't want to end Seiun Sky's career in this manner. He had rivals to beat and glory to be claimed. They didn't want to squander his abilities by having him retire early and disappoint the fans. They believed that Seiun Sky would make a miraculous comeback someday. A year and a half later, Seiun Sky returned to the Spring Tenno Show on April 29, 2001. All of his rivals had already retired the previous year, while Seiun Sky would have to compete against a new generation climbing a familiar road to the top. Seiun Sky immediately took the lead for his comeback race. It seemed as if not a day has passed since his prime as he ran vigorously out in front. He left all other racers in his wake except for one horse that ran by his side. You could hear the crowd roar in excitement as all the horses ran past the audience during the first lap. Could it be that Seiun Sky will actually make a miraculous return to the track? Sadly, that sort of thing only happens in fairy tales. Once everyone crossed the halfway mark, Seiun Sky began to slow down. The incredible lead against his opponents started getting smaller. He was slowly falling behind as every horse in the race passed him one by one. Before even reaching the final corner, Seiun Sky fell down to last place. As every competitor rounded the turn, Seiun Sky was so far behind you couldn't even see him on camera anymore. When every horse crossed the finish line, far in the distance, you can see Seiun Sky had barely just finished exiting the turn. He finished in 12th place and a full 16 seconds behind the winning horse, TM Opera O. Yokoyama-san immediately dismounted from Seiun Sky the moment they crossed the goal. He was afraid that his partner had sustained some type of injury during the race. Members of the team rushed over to take Seiun Sky and had him looked at, but nothing immediately stood out. After receiving a proper medical examination, it was determined that Seiun Sky had injured his radius, So, an official retirement was announced 2 months later in July of that year. Once he retired, Seiun Sky moved to Arrow Stud Ranch in 2002 and began breeding activities. Unfortunately, he could not escape the prejudice of his poor pedigree, so offers for breeding mares were extremely low. Among his peers like Special Week, King Halo, and Grass Wonder, Seiun Sky was the least desired stallion. Nishiyama Ranch had to resort to using their own mares for a majority of Seiun Sky's partners. He was even paired up with Nishino Flower in 2002. They produced a filly, but she was unable to win a single time out of 6 races. Seiun Sky's 71 other foals would also be unsuccessful as racehorses. By 2007, Seiun Sky would be moved back to Nishiyama Ranch and spend the rest of his life there. He retired as a breeding stallion in 2008 and would leisurely spend his days grazing in relaxation at the ranch. On August 8, 2011, while he was resting in his stable, Seiun Sky suffered a heart attack, hit his head, and died instantly at the age of 16. He would be buried near the entrance to Nishiyama Ranch, next to Nishino Flower's tombstone. His gravestone reads, "Lightning that flashed through the blue sky, may it last forever." After his passing, Norihiro Yokoyama stated, "He was like a best friend. It's a strange thing to say that he has a human touch, but he was human-like." Kazutaka declared, "I will never forget this horse. I hope he lives a fulfilled second life, and may his offspring be well." Shigeyuki Nishiyama adds, "Seiun Sky has taught me many things about horse racing and ownership. I will use this experience for the future. I want to cherish this horse in my heart for as long as I go on." Shigeyuki meant every word. He loved Seiun Sky so much that he was willing to give Cygames the likeness rights for practically no money. He stated he did not want to profit from Seiun Sky and let Cygames use the name for a measly 5,000 yen. Maybe it was because Yokoyama-san said that Seiun Sky was like a best friend, that Shigeyuki had Seiun Sky's character traits modeled after his own best friend, Yamasaki Juzo. Yamasaki-san was the author of popular manga like Fishing Fool's Diary and a huge fan of Seiun Sky. He made sure to be present at Seiun Sky's races and would always be ready to jump in for a commemorative photo. Most importantly, he loved fishing and would often take Shigeyuki on fishing excursions. Additionally, Shigeyuki and his daughter are both big fans of Umamusume. His daughter plays the game and runs her own public circle with many other Seiun Sky fans. Her profile representative is Seiun Sky, while her support card is Nishino Flower. Shigeyuki is often interacting with fans on X, and even has pictures of himself posing in someone's itasha of Seiun Sky and Nishino Flower. Without a doubt, he is Seiun Sky's biggest fan. Seiun Sky may have been unremarkable at birth, but he grew to be an amazing double crown horse. For Umamusume fans, Seiun Sky has always been beautiful. We can all learn from his example. Outside appearances are insignificant. Your fate is not sealed by the circumstances of your birth. Don't sell yourself short, know your worth, and aim as high as you can. The sky's the limit, you know what I'm saying?